Okay. All right. Greg,
Hello, Greg.
he's connecting. Marlene, while Greg's connecting.
Hi, I'm Marlene, and I live in the Shasta uplands in Mount Shasta, and I like to attend the meetings and see what's going on and be a part of it.
Yeah, well, we sure appreciate you. Brian Murphy.
Good afternoon, everybody. Brian here. I'm the fuels planner for the Shasta McLeod Management Unit out of McLeod.
All right. Andrea Mayer.
Hi there. We're new to the area and just kind of trying to hook in with all the new information of what we can do in our neighborhood.
Sounds awesome. Where do you live?
In Timber Hills.
In Timber Hills. Okay.
Good. Well, welcome.
Well, we're going to start and we're going to call on Kristen first, going to talk about Firewise Communities. We've got a new software that will help you if you're going to start a Firewise community. It helps with your tracking and your record keeping. Kristen, would you like to talk a little bit about it?
Sure. I can
Let me shoot. You want to share your screen or anything?
um well, I mean, there's not too much. I mean, people can maybe like just peruse. I'll put the Agora Hills website in there. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any, you know, anything yet since we are not set up. We're just in the process of getting our account set up, so we don't have any, back end anything to show them really yet. So if people wanted to check out, so Peter Feller is a consultant that we have hired who is the founder leader of the Agora Hills Fire Safe Council down in Southern California and is being threatened as we speak from one of the many fires down in the LA area. And he has worked with quite a few other fire safe councils in replicating what he created from scratch. He has a lot of background in all of this tech stuff from his career, which he's retired from. And so this is kind of his career, his retirement hobby, kind of so to speak, that was born out of him seeing the need for his own fire safe council, that we, could all really use some help managing the Firewise communities, neighborhood level fire safe councils, so that they can, be more supported and more sustainable and more efficient and effective, essentially. So we've hired him to set us up with his database. It's a database system that we will have. It will be added to our website. And it will essentially has kind of two purposes. One is to make it easier to get people engaged in order to start Firewise communities, to connect with other folks in their areas that also are wanting to do this. If you aren't able to knock on your neighbors' doors or just see them walking down the street, it's kind of hard sometimes to rally the troops in your neighborhood to connect with folks in order to start the Firewise community. So there's that way to use it. But then once a Firewise community is established, it makes it infinitely easier for the Firewise community leader and us to basically track all of the Firewise activities, and subsequently makes it a lot easier to renew the Firewise certification every single year and keep on track with the 3-year plan and whatnot. So makes it easier for the residents just to really quick and easy go online and enter the data. Makes it easier for the Firewise leaders. So it's pretty slick. Really, as far as we can tell, it's user-friendly, intuitive interface. I put the Agora Hills Fire Safe Council website in there, so you can kind of dabble into there. I'm not sure, like there's the Firewise communities, and it just, has a lot of background information, but then you can go, there's another link that says click here after you're on the Firewise website that says click here to go to the Agora Hills Firewise page. And I'm not, yeah, so yeah, there's a lot. So basically, we're replicating that Firewise page with all the links and everything that'll go straight to the database. And then, so on the back end side, it is really great because it shows graphs and all these, ways of quantifying the data that's entered from the Firewise community members. So yeah, it's basically a way to streamline and kind of automate and take a lot of the work, tedious work out of the process for all of us. So am I missing anything, Giselle? Anything to add to that? Oh, you're muted.
How about the Firewise communities that have already received their status in the Mount Shasta area? Would you like to mention them?
Yeah, I was hoping that maybe a couple of them would be on here.
They might be in a minute because, like I said,
all
there
right,
were
some people,
conflicting
yeah.
times. One said 3 and one said 3:30.
Yep, that's true. So maybe they'll pop out on. Just to give a little bit of background. So, Firewise, if you don't already know, is a national program that was started by the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, if I'm remembering right. And it has been around for decades and decades. We are just now starting to get it going in Siskiyou County since the state insurance department has incentivized creating Firewise communities with their requirements of of the insurance companies that now are mandated to recalculate your wildfire risk score, which usually translates to a reduction on your premium rate when you are part of a Firewise community. And so we have really started to push that the last couple years. And so just last fall, we got our first Firewise community established down in Dunsmuir, and not very long after that, we got our second one established in Mount Shasta area called the Skyview Firewise community that started by Kristen Hake. And then we've got another one that just got approved a few weeks ago. It's called Shasta Acres Firewise community, also in the Mount Shasta area. And that is started by Scott Tift, who I've yet to connect with directly, but he just up and did it all on his own. Didn't ask us for any.
Where's the work on that? I took a drive up there. I couldn't see any work that had been done.
Okay.
Leslie and Scott Tiffs.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that area actually. I haven't been over there. So yeah, we've been kind of playing email tag. So hopefully we'll connect on the phone soon. And then we've got a couple other, we have one more application submitted for a big Firewise community out in Happy Camp. Dunsmuir is also a very, very large Firewise community. And for anyone who hasn't heard this a million times from me, you can have as few as 8 properties to start a Firewise community, and you can have as many as 2,500 properties in a Firewise community. It's a big range. So the Dunsmuir Firewise community has about 1,400 homes, and the Happy Camp will probably be around the same, even though it's a much bigger geographical area. And so then we've got a couple other applications started, not yet submitted. One out in Indian Creek and one for the Monterre Estates HOA. which I don't even know where that is, and I haven't even heard from that person that's
That's
starting
the
that one.
Wairika
So,
Montague Highway.
oh, you're right. Yep. No, I do. Yep. Someone did tell me that. Yes. Okay. So that's up in Wairika. And we've got a whole bunch of
Question.
other potential. We've got another potential Mount Shasta Firewise community. I'm not exactly sure where. Heidi George and I have been playing phone tag, trying to get that, support her with getting that going. And then that's the only other one in the Mount Shasta area. But yeah, so we're hoping that other folks are gonna start talking to their neighbors and
I don't
getting the
know.
word out and getting organized, and we're here to help. And it's a little bit of a process, but it's definitely worth it in the long run for lots of different reasons, not just the insurance incentive, but yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
Dale does. You still have it?
Kristen, could you tell me where people can find the website and the specific information for the requirements for Firewise communities?
Yeah, actually that link that I just put in there for the Agora Hills Firewise, that has all of that, basic
It's
nuts and
got the whole
bolts
9 yards.
information on there, and that will very soon be, like I said, replicated and be what's on our website within a week or so, I think. Peter's working on that right now, as long as he doesn't get evacuated, which
Yeah, really.
very possible. Yeah.
And there's no requirement that those properties in a Firewise community be contiguous. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, you don't have to share property boundaries with the 7 other properties in your Firewise community.
That's good.
And there's no, minimum or maximum of how small or large properties can be, or how, it's very open-ended, the parameters of, the Firewise community.
And how long does it generally take upon application and completion of the requirements?
Well, so that's it's kind of a backwards counterintuitive thing. You actually have to do all the work and organize yourselves, get your your people on board, your neighbors, and actually have done, you don't have to have perfect defensible space on every home. You don't have to have, all the perfect home hardening or anything, you have to do some work, the minimum amount of work that's required for each annual renewal, which is very little, actually. I'm surprised it's so low, but it's essentially it's just 1 hour of work per property, or $31.80 spent by the property owner.
Would the minimum be meeting the requirements of Public Resource Code 4291?
Yeah, I mean, that's not really necessarily, what they're utilizing. They're not saying that that's, they're not really referencing that I've seen. But that, can be something that people draw from. But it's a very, very generalized ballpark range assessment. So there's the big components of the application are doing a community wildfire assessment, which involves your local fire chief and or local CAL FIRE folks that can help with that process. We've been, involved in some of the larger community wildfire risk assessments with the Dunsmuir Firewise community. But it's pretty basic. It's really not that specific, honestly. It's just like doing an eyeball assessment. We just drove around the neighborhood. You don't even get out and like walk around anyone's property. It's just driving around and what you can see from the street, and you generalize, okay, 25 to 50% of the homes have the 0 to 5 zone really well cleared. So you basically do this assessment they want you to be honest. They want you to know where you're starting from. You don't want to cook the books, so to speak. You just want to really do an actual accurate assessment of where you're at. And then the other big component of the application process is creating a 3-year action plan which is saying each year we want to, these are our goals. We want to get from 25 to 50% of the homes having the good clearance on the first 0 to 5 feet. We want to get to 50 to 75% in a year. And after that, we want to increase 75 to 100% the second year. So, there's, there's just kind of the basics of defensible space and home hardening, like what percentage of the homes have double pane windows? What percentage of the homes have 1/8 inch mesh on and this is like, you're not, like I said, you're not like even looking, touching anyone's home. It's what you can see. So it is, obviously not even going to be 100% accurate. It's a guesstimate essentially. And so, yeah, so it's, there are quite a few things to look at, so it takes a little while, but so that's the kind of the heavy lift at the beginning, is doing that community wildfire risk assessment, drawing the boundaries, deciding what the boundaries of the Firewise community are going to be, how many homes are going to be in that. And the kind of confusing part is that you don't have to have talked to all the people in the boundaries where you're drawing your Firewise community. It's just kind of what's logical, what, depending on the streets or the topography, or, how your neighborhood is laid out, or, or how much you want to take on as the Firewise leader. If you really just want to keep it small and have it your street with just 8 to 10 other people that are your immediate neighbors, great. That's how you draw your lines. But you can include, a wider area, and, those people, hopefully will jump on board and become part of the Firewise community later on. They don't have to be part of it at the outset. You just have to have that minimum of 8 to get it started. Other folks can join after it's established. But you do have to realize that however many homes you include, it is still a very low requirement, but say you only have 10 out of 40 homes in your neighborhood with people already like ready to be part of it, but you're going to draw the boundaries around all 40 homes. Well, then you're going to be required to show and document that you've put in 40 hours for those 40 homes, 1 hour per home, at the end of the year, and quantify that. But that's, most people are doing, more than 1 hour work a year on their properties. So, and then also the other requirement for the annual renewal is 1 event of kind of either an educational event, or just a meeting or a work day, work party, something Firewise related, obviously. So 1 event per year. So the requirements are actually very minimal, easy to meet. So yeah.
So Kristen, what can we do to help them? Can we help them with their events? Can we also be invited to Firewise Leader Zooms? Are there tools that we can supply them?
Yeah, so we have gone to quite a few, some are official HOA meetings. Some are just self-organized groups of neighbors, not officially, an HOA. And we can come and talk to people, talk to a group of people. We have lots of pamphlets, lots of Firewise pamphlets of information to hand out. So, we can be supportive in that way. Sometimes it helps for your neighbors to hear it from somebody official. They be more likely to get on board. So we can do that. And that's been successful and seems like an effective way to get folks on board. And we've done it, on a very small scale with just a handful of people in the room. We've done it on a large scale with 70 people in the room. We can do that. You can contact me. I'll put my email in this chat if you would like us to do that. And we have just, now that we've finally gotten a few Firewise communities established, we are doing, we decided to do it just kind of as needed, not like monthly or necessarily on any revolving time schedule, but just as needed as new folks are coming on, with new Firewise communities that might have questions or need support or guidance. We've got really great folks. The Dunsmuir Firewise leader, he's on the city staff as the hazard mitigation planner through a grant. And then Kristen Hake, who was the second Firewise community established in Mount Shasta. She's got, she said she has very generous with her time and willing to help whoever. Then that's a great contact for anyone who's doing a smaller Firewise, neighborhood scale Firewise community. She's ready and willing to help anyone out. Really great of her. So we've got some really wonderful people involved with that group. And so it's basically whenever anyone needs to have a meeting, we can schedule that with that group of folks. And it might turn into some, when we get more people, it might, and especially getting this Peter Feller's database, Firewise organization management system up and running. And we probably would have monthly meetings to get people trained and comfortable using that platform. But yeah, so I'll put my email in the chat here and phone number.
So
Chris-
for- there's some of you that have just joined, and you're not late. There was a mix up in the timing, so don't worry, but I would like you to introduce yourselves. Jasmine, would you quickly tell us who you are? She's important. We need to talk to her.
Well, hello. I don't know how important I am, but I'd love to talk to you guys. Jasmine Boragati, and I am the Chief Resilience Officer for Happy Camp Community Action in Happy Camp, and have been part of the putting together the Firewise application for Happy Camp as well. So work very closely with McWick and some of the other groups down there. So I figured I got the invite and I would log on, since I am actually, I live out in Mount Shasta, so this area is near and dear to my heart, but also some of the projects and things that are going on is, Happy Camp's not that far away. So just like to hear what other people have going on in their lives.
We're all in this together.
Yeah. And then Jerry,
Exactly.
yes. Jerry Sullivan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi, yes. I'm just a homeowner, Mount Shasta West, Eddy Circle. We've done a lot of fire stuff around here, part of the Mizbeck
And what road do you live on, Jerry?
Eddie, sir.
Eddy Circle.
Oh, Eddy Circle.
Yeah.
Good.
We
Yeah, you guys have done work out there. Go
the
ahead, Jerry.
beach
I'm sorry.
project, yeah, yeah. There's another big project going, I don't know what it is, up Deer Creek, or not Deer Creek, Dogwood Ridge. I don't know. They've got masticators and chainsaws. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's doing that. Maybe the
RCD.
Shasta Valley RCD are the ones responsible for that. But I did hear something was going on up there, but I'm not confident to tell you who it might be. So yeah, well, yeah, Eddie Circle folks have been at it for a while, mostly working with the bioregional. Isn't that true, Jerry? You guys work
Yes.
with the bioregional to get some work done out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Julie, would you introduce yourself, please?
Ah, sorry. Yeah, sorry, the lighting's weird in here, in my office. But anyway, I'm Julie Titus, been working with the Fire Safe Council on various projects for years. I do some consulting work in fire and fuels management, so help wherever I can, and some of the training aspects in wildland fire.
And she's a Mount Shasta resident too.
Oh yeah, Mount Shasta. Yeah, I am curious too, and I miss Kristen, the beginning of yours on the Firewise. There's just more and more popping up, and I'm glad you guys are linking in with it, but I'm curious if they're all really small, mostly groups, and yeah. Is it?
Yeah, so far, I'm not sure about the size of the other one that just got approved, Scott Tiff's community is
Ah.
Shasta Acres. I'm not sure what the size is on that, but Kristen Hakes, the Skyview community is 42 homes, I believe. And so yeah, it's much smaller than, the Dunsmuir or Happy Camp.
Right. And Scott Tift is in near where in the neighborhood area up
You're on
where I'm
Alphabet.
living, and
Oh, okay.
it's I know Leslie, she's like a botanist, his I don't know, his partner or wife, whatever. But
Yep, they're
I
married.
sure hope that
Longtime teacher here at Jefferson.
I
High.
don't know him personally, and I don't know how much he knows about fire, so I hope he does. I want to link him in with the Fire Safe Council here to make sure he's in communication with you guys. My understanding, I just talked to someone and said I think he's out of the country right now, like traveling. So
Yeah, you said he was
okay.
out of town for a couple weeks, and so we've been playing email and phone tag.
Oh, good. Okay, you
for
guys
a
are in
while
contact.
before he
Okay,
left
good.
town, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I hope I hope they get explained to you that if you have 8 people in a 45 community homes, let's just say, I'm using numbers, okay? It as you guys know, it makes sense to have the continuity of the larger group. It's just more effective, obviously. So I just don't know if he's trying to do that or trying to keep it small and what that's all about. That was sort of what I'm wondering. Anyway, thanks.
Yeah, and I'm not
Yeah,
too
we do.
sure yet myself. So
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
find out when he gets
He
back.
can add more to his community as they grow, right? He doesn't have to stick with the initial 8. No?
They really don't like to redraw the boundaries. They have been very explicit with us that it's better to draw your boundary bigger at the beginning to include more potential people than it's a real pain, and they are so understaffed. It's like they really don't want to have to redraw the boundaries to make it bigger. So
Interesting. So that's good to talk with him about. Okay. Thanks.
mhm.
Yeah. And Julie and the others that have just hopped on too, the agenda tells you that the resident management system that we just bought, it's Peter Feeler is the manager of that, is a really nice piece of software you can use to manage your Firewise community. And Kristen put a link in the chat that would take you there to review. And Peter said that when we get enough people that are interested and want to know how to use it better and need some help, he will give us a Zoom for that group of people as well. So as we're moving forward and more people hop on the Firewise bandwagon, Peter will come and help us with that tool. So
Great. Thanks.
and then a couple of more people that came that we haven't introduced yet. Darren, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, yeah, I'm Darren Weeks. I'm here with the Siskiyou Air Pollution Control District. I'm just kind of here observer, just listening to what you guys are up to, and if you need any help with me and the district here, I'm here to help. And I'm glad for all the work you guys are doing and all the projects that are going on and all the burning to make sure everything's safe and great. And I'm just here to kind of listen in.
All right,
Great.
thanks,
Well, thanks for
Darren.
joining us, Darren. I'm sure
Thanks.
you appreciate all the help over the years from your department. You guys have been.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
burning particularly.
Yeah. And then Wayne Kessler. Wayne, would you mind introducing yourself?
Wonder if this is the Wayne Kessler that I grew up with in Shingletown, who was the photographer for every one of my school pictures in elementary school. I think
Was
he
it
did
John
move to this
Kessler's
area.
cousin?
Yeah, I think it might be because I did run into his wife at Mount Shasta Elementary, so I know I did.
Oh,
They
really?
did move to this area, so I think it might be that same Wayne
Right. Well,
Kessler.
he might have stepped away or is doing something else, but we're
There's
glad to
another.
have you, Wayne.
There's a cell phone. I don't think we've heard from who that is.
That's Greg, I believe.
Oh, that's Greg. Oh, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Did you
Okay.
introduce Ruby?
Yeah, Ruby's hopping off, and Ruby's here too if she wants to introduce herself, but she just told me she's having technical difficulties and she's going to just hop off. So, yeah, okay.
Ruby's one of our admin assistants and an excellent gal. I have one more question before we move away from Firewise Communities, Kristen. Could you share with us what are the latest incentives besides neighborhood fire safety for establishing a Firewise community, given what has been offered from the California State Insurance Commissioner and others?
Yeah, so it's a little bit ambiguous at this point, unfortunately, because there's only so much that the state insurance department can do, at least all at once. They, are essentially trying to take baby steps in the direction of kind of recalibrating the insurance industry in California, which is no small undertaking, as we all know, and the ripple effects of the massive losses of homes down in LA is gonna definitely have a lot of far-reaching effects. But essentially, as of January 1st, 2024, so just over a year ago, the state insurance department made it mandated all insurance companies to recalculate your wildfire risk score when you did any of quite a long list of things, including re-roofing your roof with a Class A roof. So starting or joining a Firewise community is only one of the thing. It's part of the Safer from Wildfires program, and that's on, I can put that in the chat too. It's on the California Insurance Department's website. And so they have this kind of laundry list of things that the insurance companies operating in California are now required by the state insurance department to recalculate your wildfire risk score, which is what determines your premium rate when you do any of those things, Firewise being one of them. And they, can't really put too many parameters around that. And so the unfortunate outcome is that it's very willy-nilly, it's like it just depends from one insurance company to the next. There's a huge range of what people are, initially other counties, I think this is kind of before insurance companies had a chance to react. We were hearing from other counties that are ahead of us in the Firewise process were telling us 10 to 25% reductions. And so that was like, wow, okay, great. But what from the Dunsmuir Firewise community, at least it's, anywhere from like 2 to I think maybe like 12% is the biggest one I've heard of that people have gotten. The FAIR plan is kind of the only one that is a consistent discount. So people are getting 8 to 10%, and that's just like standard. So if you're on the FAIR plan, you can count on getting 8 to 10% reduction on your premium rate, which you're paying way more obviously when you're on the FAIR plan. And so that's a good incentive for the folks that are on FAIR plan. The other component is that if you have been dropped, if you are uninsured or can't get insurance, having Firewise designation helps you get insured. So what the Firewise folks in so I also didn't mention that in California, like I said, Firewise is a nationwide program that's been around for decades. In California, not that long ago, CAL FIRE took over the the application process for Firewise in our state. So when you put in an application for Firewise, it's CAL FIRE that reviews it and gets back to you and who you deal with. So and so those folks, the CAL FIRE people that are in charge of Firewise and the state insurance department folks have told us that your best bet, if you're on the FAIR plan and paying astronomical amounts, you get the discount, get Firewise designation, get the discount, and then you can, if you have the wherewithal and the time, they said the best bet is to call every single insurance company, even if they supposedly left California, because it's kind of this game that the insurance companies play where they, say, especially after a big big fire, they'll say, oh, California's too high risk. We're out of here. We're leaving. We're dropping everyone. But then almost across the board, like clockwork, 6 months later, they're back. They kind of silently just come back in and start, writing policies again. And so what they've said to play that game is that every 3 to 6 months, people should call every single insurance company, even if the last you heard, they weren't operating in California, call them anyway, because chances are they have come back in the last 3 to 6 months, and say, hey, I have Firewise designation. Will you insure me? They really encourage people to shop around very aggressively. Once you have that Firewise designation in your hand, then you're in a much better position to get off the FAIR plan and insured at a more reasonable rate with a normal insurance company. But
Kristen,
you can still get the 8 to 10% reduction on the FAIR.
Kristen, this is Marlene. I wanted to ask you, okay, so where we live, it's all 2.5 acre parcels, so we're really far apart, basically. But the Shasta Uplands, there's several streets involved. I don't know how many houses. And I mean, I'd love to make it Firewise, but I don't know how we contact everybody. I'm not, 20 years ago, I would just knock on everybody's door, but I'm not at that point anymore. So could you think of something, to get some help in here to?
Yeah, I mean, next door, can be, if people are using it, next door, I mean, you can just, I don't know what the mailbox, situation is in your neighborhood. We can get you pamphlets. You can, write a little letter, and you can put letters and pamphlets, Firewise pamphlets in people's mailboxes, saying, please get in touch with me. I have a newsletter an article I wrote for the Hammond Ranch HLA, that we can edit for your purposes. And, you can put your name and phone number, and I can put my name and
Well,
phone
it's not
number.
like I know people around here. I know a few people, but that's about it. It was a lot more effective, I think, when we originally did the cleanup of the area, when Giselle, I guess you originally came around, Giselle?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's been about 4 years, maybe not that long, but uh, just a few things. I have a list just for your neighborhood and just for the Uplands email list. I also have most of their contacts. I think, treated about 80% of the properties up there. And so, Marlene, if you want to send out a little notice, Kristen can help with that. She said she has the stuff. We can just put it on the email list. If you want to be the go-to, or if you have someone else that wants to be the chairman of that, that would be great. We need one person to take charge. So designate somebody, and then we can help you out with that. We have all the contacts for folks in your neighborhood. So yeah, virtually all of them, maybe not all of them, but almost. So get in touch, email, call, and we will get you started on that.
Yeah.
Well,
Delegate.
yeah, find somebody who
I'm trying to figure out who I could delegate it to. That would be
Yeah.
the issue.
Yeah. Another point is United Policyholders. It's a nonprofit. They're advocates for homeowners and insurance
They're great.
users, and they have a website. You can get a lot of information off of them. I think it's up.com or .org. Kristen, if you
I'll get
could
it. Yeah.
look at that, yeah. Forget it for sure and put it in the chat, but they have a lot of great information about insurance and insurance reductions and what the commissioner is going to require and what they're doing. So they're doing a lot of things. I know they just sent out a notice that for all of the Southern California fire victims, that the insurance companies cannot drop them and
Right.
cannot raise their insurance
Well,
for a whole year. Yeah. So anyway,
Speaking as an insured for 3A for nearly 50 years, they offered up to a 15% discount for being a Firewise community,
Mhm.
and at least 10% depending on your work. So you 3A folks out there, that's a good consideration.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And USAA was one of the very few companies that actually was offering discounts for Firewise even before the state mandated all insurance companies to do it. So
Unfortunately, they're not, insuring anymore here.
Mhm.
really?
Oh, wow.
well,
Well,
like we
Kristen,
said, that's for now. And in 3 to
Yeah.
6
Yeah.
months, that will most likely change. So
Yeah. So uphelp.org is in the chat if you want more information on insurance reductions. Again, this is a nonprofit help for policyholders. So anyway, you can go there and do some reading.
oh, one little caveat that explain the underlying reasons. So the reason that the insurance companies play that game of saying, oh, high risk, we're out of here, dropping everyone, and then 6 months come back, it's like, yeah, of course, we all know it's very high risk here, but it's also the most lucrative market in the country, most lucrative insurance market. So they can't stay away. It's just too lucrative, even though, yeah, then it's a huge loss, obviously, too. So it's kind of a little bit of a, I don't know how the insurance department is really trying to work, and United Policyholders works very closely with the state insurance department, kind of pushing the envelope on all of this from behind the scenes. And they really are trying to, get things equilibrated and functional and sustainable and affordable and, so workable for the insurance companies. And so everyone can not be so out of their mind and stressed with insurance.
Right. Any more questions on that? I mean, that was a really robust conversation and necessary. We want to move forward. We're going into, well, we're at a lull right now. Now's the time to do your work. And fire season's coming up, so we want to encourage everybody to get out there, get your fire fuel reduction done on your property, home harden, do your 0 to 5 foot, get that all cleaned up. And anything else that you need to do to become more fire safe around your properties, now's the time. So let me encourage you. Any more questions for Kristen?
I have a question, and maybe I came in late, so I don't know if it's been covered. But is the council at all doing anything to help encourage neighborhoods to make a survey and make sure everybody knows who the neighbors are and the contact information, especially for those who are infirm or disabled? Because most of the victims of fires tend to come from people that cannot get out of the house. If that list had been made for each neighborhood, then can be given to the police and the county officials, then we might be able to save more people's lives. Has that been discussed or covered in your discussions?
Not in this meeting, Wayne, but the fire department does keep a list. And we here in Shasta Avenue, we've got a neighborhood watch organization that's very tightly knit. So we have a list of those folks. But I encourage anybody that's listening, by all means, get to know your neighborhood and who may need that kind of help.
Well, that's
Look at it
actually
that way.
that's the point of a Firewise community. That's really the underlying driving goal is for people to know their neighbors and to come together and work together and help the elderly neighbors that can't physically do their defensible space clearing and are on a fixed income and can't hire anyone to do it for them. That's really the whole point of, yes, I mean, there's multiple reasons to do a Firewise community, but that's one of the driving factors is exactly that, because yeah, that folks who are, not going to be able to get themselves out or, supposed to go register on the county's, I believe it's the county's website, is it the Office of Emergency Services? I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but, the county Office of Emergency Services is in charge of you know, getting those people out that are registered. But the reality is that most likely, you know, they might not be able to get there, or, you know, they might not be able to get in. There could, you know,
Yeah.
lots of reasons.
But
So
they've conveyed
it really
that
is,
to the local
Wayne's
fire
right. It's gonna
No.
be dependent on the neighbors helping neighbors. That's your best bet for sure.
Yeah.
So
So OES does keep those
So
records. There is a place to sign up online at the county, Siskiyou County's
that's
web.
I was just gonna say that, just so can you send that link out? I can do it if you're not able to, but at the fire awareness education, awareness and preparedness session that we have done, is it third annual? We're trying to do it every year now.
Yep.
They came and they signed, they were amazed. I didn't see who was talking. I apologize, I stepped away a minute. But they signed up a lot of people, I mean, quite a few, I should say, at that session. And I think that needs to get out better, absolutely, for our vulnerable population people and just to get them in the loop and get them help quickly. Yeah.
And it's constantly changing that population.
And
Yep.
Julie, if you have that link handy, would you put that in chat? Otherwise,
Yeah, let me, I'm coming back to my, desk. I'm sorry, I was walking.
yeah, that's
Oh,
okay.
yes, I'll grab it.
Put that in
Okay.
chat.
yeah,
and
it's called, yeah, I've got it. The Access and Functional Needs Registry.
Yeah, it's through County OES.
Yeah.
So if you got it, Kristen, go ahead. You're probably faster than me on that. I didn't
Sign
grab
up
it yet.
for the, yep, here it is.
Okay.
Julie, did you have more to say?
No, I was just saying you're right. There's absolutely a process, and he's he's correct. And I don't know if that word gets out enough.
No, I know we've heard that it hasn't been, there's been some, I mean, it gets out a lot and there's a lot of people that have benefited from it, but some people have slipped through the cracks, we've heard.
Yep.
And we don't
Mhm.
want that to happen. So
Right.
anyway.
And it's just good for everybody in the neighborhoods that are starting these firewise communities are aware so they can get people to sign up. And just like Dale just said, new people come in, people change. It's constant change. So you got to do it every year, if not more often than that, if needed,
Yeah.
get the word out. Yep.
Dale, you had something to say?
My question, Wayne Kessler, where do you live at? What street?
I live on Cedar Street, Mount Shasta,
I see.
and I have a question too.
Have you
Kristen,
lived there for very long?
for about 9 years,
Okay.
but I also lived in Shingletown for about 30 years.
Oh,
That is
Oh,
Wayne
that
Kessler.
is.
I don't think you heard me. Wayne, I am one of the Millers.
Oh, you're the Miller. Oh,
I'm the
okay.
Miller. Well, my last name's Norman, but
Yeah.
my dad's side. But you took my picture every single year of my elementary school. You were our photographer.
I remember the Normans and the Millers. Yes, I do.
Yeah, I heard you moved up to this area. We just
Yeah.
got here a few years ago, so we followed you. But my whole family's still over there in Shingletown.
Yeah. Oh, well, nice.
Kristen,
So
was
Wayne,
there-
by all means, if you know of some people who recently became disabled or anyone that knows anyone in your
Well-
neighborhood, by all means, you want to network and get that information to County OES and also to our local fire department, which would be Mount Shasta Fire that has
Well,
jurisdiction.
I think
local
that's
district.
going to be important because
Yes.
but one of the problems we're all have, what is our neighborhood? In a sense, how many houses do we go out in a sense to try to figure out where are the people are? Because Cedar Street's fairly long, several blocks long.
Yeah.
And I know there are, well, maybe half a dozen people that would need help. I don't know if they're registered or not, but that's a lot of houses. But I can deal with the contacting and being with neighbors with the 8 people around me.
Yeah, I would just start on that block you live on, Wayne, and those
Yeah.
across the street from you.
But I was hoping that, there was some city council or a fire agency that would be trying to encourage neighborhoods to do this type of thing as a backup, because the registry, yes, that will probably take care of a lot of people, but not everybody. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
neighbors
yeah,
are
the
going to be
fire,
more reliable.
Are constantly getting that word out, along with those folks down at the Mount Shasta Recreation Department that work with the seniors. But
Yeah.
again, it's constantly changing.
Right, I know, that's why
I could
neighborhoods
call
are
them.
more,
Call up my knee tomorrow and I'll be on the list.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the form that you fill out on for the OES says in red lettering, this is not a rescue plan. You must understand the following disclaimers. By
Right.
being added to this list, this should not be your plan for evacuation. You should always have your own plan to evacuate with your neighbors, friends, or family. Being on this list does not guarantee first responders will make contact with you during any sort of disaster or evacuation. Do not wait for them to come get you. So, yeah.
And
So
that lady
the other
talking
thing-
knows she had to evacuate, she and her family, when Shingletown was evacuated this summer during the park fire.
Mm-hmm.
The hard way, huh, Kristen?
Yeah. She helped her family. So another way to know when you need to evacuate and use many tools in the toolbox this is another one to use. Get the app Watch Duty. It's free and put your alert on there. It'll ring and it'll tell you where there's a fire. It gives you a map showing you if you should evacuate or not. And you need to know your zone and you can look up your zone. I think you can find it on the county website, Kristen, the zones that you're in, your evacuation zones. So anyway,
Watch Duty dog.
And also the Ready Siskiyou alerts is the what used to be code red. I'll put that's in the chat as well. That you definitely need to be registered for that as well to get the evacuation warnings and orders.
Meanwhile, I'd like to talk a little bit more about maintaining our defensible space and how very important that is. We've had a real wonderful January where it's been very great opportunities for getting out and getting that fuel reduction done without having to dig the brush out of the snow, so to speak. And if you guys aren't doing it, I strongly encourage you to keep up with it. It's really to keep up with it after you've done some heavy lifting with a weed eater. But by the second year, you're probably going to be using a chainsaw. And if you don't like a weed eater, think about, getting some browsers out there like goats. There are people, you can go online right here in Siskiyou County and you can rent goats. Folks will bring goats out to you if you've got some acreage and they'll keep that stuff browsed down good. And they'll take the responsibility for those animals and put electric fence around it and maybe a Pyrenees or a guard dog, a herd dog to watch those animals besides. And it's a pretty inexpensive way to go if that brush has kind of got ahead of you. But once it gets up to 3 feet, boy, oh boy, it can get expensive then. You'll be bringing in a masticator or maybe a 10-person hand crew on 2.5 acres. And you figure the average cost for a 1 acre parcel right now is about $5,000, $5,000 to $6,000. So a lot cheaper to do it yourself with a weed eater.
all right. So
Or hire a high schooler at minimum wage to do it for you. A lot cheaper.
yeah, there you go. Yeah. And maintaining the fuel breaks around Mount Shasta. So we have over the years put a fuel break on almost every north, south, east, west side of Mount Shasta, but they all grow back. And so again, we encourage you to work on your properties. So you want to say anything about the fuel breaks, Dale, around Mount
Well,
Shasta?
up to about 4 years ago, we had fuel breaks that totally surrounded the city of Mount Shasta, that either the Fire Safe Council established or the Forest Service. Sometimes CAL FIRE would step in, like in the case of Shasta Acres. They put a dent in it up there a little bit. They grow back and they grow back too fast. And I really appreciate those folks up in your neighborhood, Julie, as an example, getting in their backyards and maintaining that fuel break about around the old McLeod River Railroad that's been abandoned. But by all means, talk it up in your neighborhoods to maintain those fuel breaks. If you don't own it, find out who does own it. You can get permission. If you need help, we will help you to acquire permission. And let's maintain those fuel breaks. because the fire safe councils and the Forest Service have done a lot of heavy lifting. But now it's up to property owners. And as State Farm is very fond of saying, if you own it, take care of it. If you can't take care of it, consider maybe selling it. But take responsibility with what you own.
All right, let's move on to number 4, maintaining defensible space and increasing your home hardening. We already talked about that. We do have one grant that we're working on right now. It's on Old Stage Road. We've got a few more people to treat out there. And then also on I-5, we did some work there, and we all got a CEQA for Caltrans to be able to do their work on part of I-5 running through Mount Shasta. So we're working on a few things, but we don't have enough money, or we haven't got the grants to go help everybody with their home hardening. One thing we do have is the Community Wildfire Defense Grant, and we will be moving, not this year, but maybe next year, moving into Mount Shasta with that opportunity, which does supply some defensible space. If you qualify, it's for underserved people, for people that can't otherwise do it themselves. But we're hoping to get even more money so that we get more people treated. And it's not going to be real hard to get on that list, but we are doing some vetting. We're doing home assessments. If you want a home assessment, you can get in contact with us, and we have a program called Fire Aside, and we can send somebody out. This does not go to CAL FIRE. It does not go to the county. This is only for your own use, and you can get a report. It'll give you kind of a roadmap as to where you can go or what you need to do to make your home hardening and defensible space workable. So anyway, Kristen, you have anything more to say about the CWDG?
No, I think you covered all of it. The other thing that what you were saying made me remember one other possible way we can support Firewise communities, and have done so with Dunsmuir already, is the Ford Family Foundation has been very generous, giving us multiple micro grants of just $5,000 at a time to do kind of community barbecues for work days, buying all the food and drinks to incentivize folks to come out and work together and get their communities more resilient and ready for fire. That's kind of like next level once you've kind of gotten the foundation laid. But that is something that we have done with the Dunsmuir Firewise community.
Okay. Well, now we're down. I think we've covered every item on the agenda except for open forum. Now's your time.
Old Stage.
Oh, we just talked about it. I said we had a project out there, and with a few more people. Yeah, we talked about it.
Definitely signed up on that.
Yeah, no, we've talked about it. So anyway, now it's time for your questions, comments, concerns, or anything else you'd like to talk about related to fire or Firewise.
I am
Anybody?
putting the defensible space home assessment link in the chat here.
I have a
anyone?
quick question for Brian, if he's still there.
Hey,
Oh, there's
Julie,
Brian.
good
Oh,
good timing.
Uh-huh.
I had a
okay.
question for you.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I guess I can ask first here, but I was in the area of where you guys burned the piles on the trails, so on the slope here above the town, going up well, above the whole railroad. Just that you guys did an amazing job up there, and then started doing some great piling, some of which was huge stuff. And I went, oh my goodness. So the burning, obviously, which, God, I know from the bottom of my heart how hard it is to hit a prescription. It was pretty wet by the time it was burnt, took out the fines. And I actually was looking and took some pictures. It took out, you did take out some, the fines, the tens, now the hundreds, and some, are you guys gonna go back or scatter it or or just leave it, or or have you looked on some of that?
Are you talking about the piles in our I-zone contract? Kind of.
Yeah, above that Monte Shasta, above the railroad tracks, into the it's into the God, how's it comes
Yeah, I
across
know the ones you're
comes
talking
across
about.
to the 31 road. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that whole, yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. We're pretty happy with the consumption we got in there.
Yeah, it's not bad. Like I said, took out it took out the flammable stuff. And some of
Yeah,
them were good. Some of them were missed altogether. That just happens in a contract. And I thought, they'll
yeah.
probably have a chance to come back, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, if we have a chance to go back and definitely get some of those piles that were missed, and then while we're in there, if there's piles that didn't consume very well, we'll probably just scatter them, because as you know, once you burn the fines out of them, there's no point trying to bone pile a bunch of half burned heavies. So yeah, going back in there getting those missed piles would be something worthwhile, but I don't think we're gonna go back.
Yeah, no, I doubted it. The one thing I say, if somebody was going to ask me, oh, they didn't burn it, my argument back to them is they did a good job. They got some of them burnt, and honestly, you took the fuels away from the base of those trees, so they're in openings. So it's better than the continuous fuel bed that it would have been. So there's your argument too. So that, I mean, on your favor, I'm just looking at it from, anyway. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
no, thanks, Julie. Yeah, we're pretty happy about the way that went. That was a huge push. We got hundreds of acres of piles burned in one day. We had the hotshot crew up from Shasta Lake, and whenever you have that many people all, pushing through the forest, some get missed. Everybody thinks, oh, the next guy is going to get that one, and then they don't. So there is some of that. And if you remember when we burned that, it was right up against that big system that came in.
Yeah, you're just a little late. I were like,
You
patting her going,
just-
oh, if they were a day earlier, they'd have had us.
I know. And so
the way it goes, man. Yeah.
it's the way it goes. And so some of those maybe higher elevation piles, or some of those piles that got lit later in the day, are probably the ones where you're seeing some of the incomplete combustion. And that just comes with it. We shoot for 80, as you know, we shoot for 80% or better combustion, and we're confident that we got better than that.
Okay. And then the other question is and maybe that's where you're already going to go. I asked it at a different meeting, and along the Everett Memorial.
Yeah.
Where you guys dropped a ton. I mean, that stuff's huge. And I thought, I've been puzzled thinking, you changed the fuel profile. You took it from vertical dead, put it on the ground dead. And that's okay. Just curious.
That wasn't the objective, Julie. That wasn't a fuels project. That was a road safety project. So
okay. Okay.
Yeah, we had a lot of public interest in mitigating the hazard to the road, and when the heavy snows come down, the county doesn't want to be out there with 4 feet of snow plus a bunch of jackstawed snags. So we got in there and mitigated the hazard and created a mess, and now it's a fuels problem, and we are thinking about it.
That's a tough one, man.
It's a tough one. So
that could be pushed into to make firewood opportunities.
It's so big though.
It's big. It's slightly further off the road than a lot of firewood cutters want to hand pack this material, because of course we can't allow vehicles off the road to gather that firewood. So firewood is a great idea. If we could yard the stuff closer to the road and maybe make some decks and let firewood cutters get it safely and easily, that is something we're thinking about. We are thinking about that area for an upcoming NEPA project, which, so we don't want to do a CE in there to allow certain activities just to deal with those snags when we're going to do a larger project later. I don't know, Julie. I don't have the answer.
No, absolutely, Brian. It's just, I don't know what you could do at this point. And I know that value, that stuff was dead long enough. I'm sure it's blue stain. I'm sure the value is nothing, right? I mean, in terms of lumber,
it's got value as biomass. We could sell it for 10 cents a ton. The Forest Service doesn't make any money off it, but it does put it through a cogen, and it creates power to make plywood or whatever, wherever it goes. That's our number one option right now, and we would love to utilize that biomass and have it go for something, even if the Forest Service it'll be an expenditure for us to pay somebody to come and take that material and run it through a cogen. But I'm seeking that funding. Forest Service budgets are really dry right now.
Right. Oh God. Yeah. And I don't know where it's gonna go. Oh man. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's on the top of the list for, grant applications and things like that.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Great. Thanks.
Bill, you had a
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, could you speak about the McKinsey Butte proposal?
Yeah. We're still sussing out a lot of the details for like what the treatments are going to look like in there and what we really want to do. But it's going to be your standard thin, cell, biomass. A lot of that smaller stuff is going to be biomass. There might be some commercial timber in there, but those acres have been worked in the past. So we're not really going for high volume timber sales in there. We're going for a more fuels reduction or restoration, or there's going to be some plantation management in there. There's some steep, nasty slopes. There's some areas that were in our mountain thin project that didn't get treated nearly to the degree that we think it should. That mountain thin NEPA was really old, and it wasn't really what we're going for now with our, if you want to call it like new school NEPA, where we're treating down to levels that are going to significantly impact fire danger. So anyway, we're revisiting a lot of those acres, coming up with a plan. If you're familiar with Everett Hill, and I don't know if you've seen the proposed footprint. I don't think anything's super formal yet, but
I haven't seen
it's
the footprint,
basically-
but I've sure seen the kill. A lot of
it's
beetle killing.
getting that project should loop in a lot of federal acres west of Ski Park Highway, and then wrapping around, and not really covering a whole lot of the like west facing slope of Mount Shasta, like up above McBride. That's what we're targeting for a different, larger scale, like environmental analysis, similar to South Fork, really big landscape scale. The McKenzie Butte project will be, I think, to the south of the 31 road. We'll stay to the south of Old McLeod.
Really? How about
I
all the
believe
beetle
so.
kill? They're
And it's
paralleling
not really
wagon.
geared toward that heavy, Fermageddon. It's not really geared toward that heavy die off that you see up on the slopes of Mount Shasta. That stuff's higher elevation than
And that's
that'll be
concerning.
wrapped. That's wrapped into the next NEPA project.
Yeah, because Brian, 2 years ago, we had 20 to 25% dead and dying that was observable from Everett. Now we've got about 40% plus, and we really need to get a handle on that.
I
We're gonna
agree.
lose a lot more.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, if there's any, great ideas out there, we're happy to hear them at the Forest Service, because we see the same project or same problem, and there's no easy way to treat it. So we're definitely open to suggestion and open to ideas from the community.
I have a question, Brian.
Sounds like a plan.
I don't even know, I haven't seen all the maps at least recently, but so I actually forgot to chime in when Giselle was listing the fuel reduction projects that Fire Safe Council is doing in the Mount Shasta area, that the McConnell Foundation, is in the beginning stages, getting ready for implementation on their big $10 million FEMA fuel reduction project. And I don't know, the boundaries, the map, how those overlap with the projects you're talking about. But I think maybe by the next quarterly meeting, Giselle, I'll
Yeah.
ask Alex, and maybe there'll be at a point then when Alex would be ready to come on here and talk about that.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
So I'll talk to him about that. But the other thing I wanted to mention, Brian, have you heard about Ascent Forestry? It's a tech forest outfit that was based in, I just put the link in the chat, was based out of the Bay Area. But the guy, Brendan, you're Brian. Brendan Hafner is the founder, CEO or whatever of Ascent Forestry, and he just moved with his family, kids, to Mount Shasta. And they have 3 of the biggest biochar units that you can buy, and all of the, equipment, and have done really large contracts with like the East Bay Mud, the municipal whatever district, doing, they did really like big eucalyptus thinning on really steep slopes in that East Bay Mud district. But he's still, I think most of their work is still down in the Bay Area, but they're really, obviously wanting to get looped in with projects here in Siskiyou County now that he lives here. So, they are definitely, an option now that, I don't know, I mean, they can set up camp just about anywhere. They can go in and do it all and then biochar it all. So it's pretty awesome.
You say do it all, do the logging?
Yep, they do it all. Mm-hmm.
Does that include short span cable systems too?
I don't know about cables stuff, but
Brian, I'll tell
they
you,
also have they kind of
have
have like the same sort of thing like that BurnBot. They have bots. They have these forestry logging bots that can go where equipment can't, manned equipment can't go.
Could you talk to him about maybe making a presentation at our next Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County meeting?
Yep.
Or maybe the one following?
Yep.
Be good to hear.
So I'm
Yeah.
curious, Kristen, did you say that they are affiliated with McConnell, or they're a business that's moved? Okay. Wait.
Yeah, no affiliation with McConnell. I just happened to meet him when I was doing an outreach
Yeah.
booth at the Blackberry Festival. He came over to talk to me. I was like, "Hey, I just moved here." This was like 2 summers ago. And
so
he's
so
been
are
to he's been to a couple of our Fire Safe Council
okay.
Siskiyou County.
Yeah. I mean, I
Um,
wonder the cost. Well, obviously, getting some costs and some. I mean, for like Brian, this project is along the road. Man. I mean, if they're that large of equipment, it might be something that if the Forest Service had grant money, I just maybe he could find out some of the costs and link it in. That'd be excellent.
Yeah, I mean they're
Yeah.
kind of like a one-stop shop, basically.
Kristen, what I would tell you to tell him is first of all, like, welcome to the community, happy to have you. We need operators that can do this kind of work, but so everything that we put out is a competitive process. So
Right.
whether it's a timber sale that he's bidding on or a service contract like I
Right.
put out, that it's all just competitive.
Right.
It's on beta, or it's on sam.gov. I'm sure he's familiar. I'd love to see his name on some bids for sure.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't win the bid, he could always slip in the back door as a subcontractor, maybe the winning bidder, couldn't he, Brian?
Yep. And if he's a logger, he bids on the sales, and if he wants to make biochar out of the slash piles, top wood, whatever, then that's his prerogative. If that's what he wants to do, every other purchaser is, chipping that material and shipping it to a cogen. So, that's how we would do it. We're offering deck sales right now. I know there's some decks going out for sale up near like Antelope Fire decks. And then I'll be putting up some decks for sale down the Squaw Valley Creek Road. And if he wants to make biochar, I would point him that direction. Just buy some decks, park that thing there, spend all day feeding it with a machine.
Yeah, I think the biochar is secondary. I think their purpose is to, do the thinning. It's the biochar is just to be able to deal with the stuff that's created from the thinning fuel reduction project.
Gotcha.
Basically.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of that up
biochar's
here
not too-
because we're in a airshed that is in attainment, so we're not really restricted with our. And Darren's on the line, actually. He could talk more about it, but I see a lot more of the biochar production and the curtain burner style stuff going on in airsheds that are, got a lot of smoke sensitive receptors. So that's why that hasn't really gotten a huge foothold up here, is because it's just easier for us to burn the whole pile and send up the smoke and be done with it, walk away. So
Totally.
I think Darren hopped off. It would have been a
Oh,
good
okay.
question for him. So
In terms of biochar demand, though, it is a growing demand. It is really accelerating in the ag industry. Farmers aren't too far away from us in the Reading area down south. And with biochar, you can oftentimes tremendously reduce your irrigation costs as much as 90%. It's running about $110 a ton right now on average statewide. But when you consider the cost of pump irrigation, it can pay for itself. So I'd sure like to hear from this fellow. Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Brian, I gotta say, boy, going up the Everett, I sure like what I'm seeing there in the plantations. You guys have been doing great work. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Yeah, I appreciate that. We like it too. We're trying to get in there and burn again in the spring. I had a question for you guys. So Giselle and I and Dale and we all need to put our heads together. The open season for applying for federal dollars to treat non-federal lands, that they have just solicited that. Of course, we didn't have much warning. It's due end of January, but you know, you don't have to flush out all the details by end of January. We could throw a pretty quick proposal together, and Giselle and I have already talked. But I'd like to open up to the group if anybody has any ideas of where in town, around town, non-federal acres that need treatment again. Giselle and I have talked about some big canyon, and then where 89 and I-5 meet, and then a coworker today threw out the road down to Cantera needs treatment again. So even if this is kind of like maintaining something that we've done before, if that's all we have available, that's fine. Let's throw it in a proposal. And that is assuming that you guys have the capacity and, you know, can do it, because
We'll get
really the lift is of
capacity.
you guys.
Yeah, we'll get, yeah, and that Cantera piece was also included in the Big Canyon. If you saw that original proposal, that was Cantera and Big Canyon. I talked about turning that back around. It's been 10 years ago. And then the Mount Shasta Boulevard south, going past the schools there and connecting to 89 and Highway I-5. That one was already proposed at one point. So those are the two that we came up with because they've already been proposed. We have language, and since we have such a short period of time, we could probably turn those around. But anything anybody might consider worthy, we're ready to hear.
And I think a couple other good areas that are growing up too fast is the Everett, where we use the 3 Cs to treat that 1.5 miles going up to the top, meeting with the Forest Service, then cutting across to the west that we treated in 2017, our North Sacramento Headwaters project that squirted out on Raspberry Lane. Those in the brush properties there and all the roading are growing up too fast since 2017. Unfortunately, a lot of those people have not maintained their roads. At the same time, there's federal lands right alongside them.
So we had a West Mount Shasta project at one point that we submitted, but the Shasta Valley RCD has a large grant for West Mount Shasta, and they're signing people up right now. So I don't know whether we want to go over their project since they're already working there. I don't know if it's practical to also propose something within that area.
I agree, Giselle, and I know for a fact that Carolyn and the Shasta Valley RCD are contacting all those landowners. And it seems to me that if those landowners say no to Carolyn and Shasta Valley, then they're probably going to say no to you guys as well. So yeah, I agree. I kind of agree that we need to stay out of that West Mount Shasta area. I like the Raspberry Lane. I know, yeah, Raspberry Lane and that whole area does need treatment again. So I'll add that to my list.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it definitely impacts the Forest Service plantations. We sure don't want fire to bust out of there.
And so you who are in West Mount Shasta, Wayne and Greg, contact the Shasta Valley RCD. They're looking for they're looking for people to sign on to their program and get some fuel reduction and defensible space around your house. Shasta Valley RCD does have the funding. I'm not sure what their process is for signing up, but there is money to treat West Mount Shasta.
I have another quick question too on Rainbow Ridge. I had a friend, we went hiking up there just the other day, And the huge change as you're going up, the hike we always do for training hike. I know you're aware of it probably. Once you get up, so if you're starting from the lake and you're going up, it's like night and day once you get to where you hit the force, no, it's not force, it's private. I don't know what it is. It's a checkerboard up there. So I mean, I'm curious, Brian, if it's been the talk to make a fuel break along that entire ridge. And I think it's the multi ownership is part of the problem.
Yeah.
I don't
The
know.
Forest
Yeah,
Service
pulls
did,
a lot of
Julie,
that
I'm
timber.
sure you know the Forest Service did a fuel break up there. I
Oh
think
yeah,
it was
yeah, it ends. It goes up. Yeah, they do.
right. It ends
Mhm.
at our boundary, at our ownership. And
Right.
then
So you
I-
said non-fed though, so I'm curious if those, I don't know if it's
Yeah.
like, but if it's like banging your head against the wall still with the
it's a
people.
good idea, Julie, and I will look into that. That's a good idea. It gets into
Okay.
that water district owned land, and I feel like they would be fairly agreeable. And I
You
feel
would
like
think, it's
yeah,
a really good dividing, it's a good ridge to have something, to take a stance if you have a chance. Hey,
yep.
there you go, rhyming. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any ideas or have a wish list of any kind that we can give to Brian?
I guess there's one last thing. Sorry, I'll just say this. There's still tons of work behind the area up here between, where Alpine Road is all the way to 31. They've done a great job, the Forest Service, but there's land between where the Forest Service land is and into the homes. And I do know, and I met one of the people, but my thought is, I think that ties in with the FEMA grant that Kristen, that Alex. So I know, I'm not gonna sit there and say, hey, Brian, here's another one until I know where he's at with it for behind these communities.
I think we wrote a grant a long time ago that covered part of that. But yeah, that's a good spot. It sure needs
Okay.
treatment.
Right, so I don't know, again, I'm floating ideas, but it may already be in the FEMA wording and project areas, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all
Okay.
right, that's just,
Brian,
thanks.
do you, it might be worth calling Alex just off the top of his head,
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear back from Alex and Wendy and Carolyn about how it's going, who they have signed up, and how and what their progress is, because it does affect what other grants we're trying to get. But I know they're busting their butts. I think there was a minimum parcel size that they had to target. So some of these smaller landowners, small residential lots, like I think what Julie is talking about, may be too small for that FEMA money. So I will look into that area as well, Julie.
Yeah.
And I
And I
know
think
you've talked
that's,
to Hani. I know you've talked to Hani about it too.
yeah. And I think that's true. So we would
Great, yeah.
all of those landowners that are next to that project, the smaller landowners, or I mean, that would be what the application would be for. So I think.
Any other topics for open forum, guys? Well, our next meeting then will be April 3rd. That's Thursday at 3:30. And hopefully we'll have a lot more going on at that point when we see this new Trump administration roll things out in some kind of revolutionary way, maybe.
So, all righty, then Brian, you and I will talk more about this upcoming grant and what I need to do and how we can get that off the ground. So, anything else?
I'll just say, sadly, this fire, I've got watch duty notifications, is now at 8,000 plus acres down south in Lake Castaic. I don't know if you guys were
Yeah,
Castaic,
aware.
yeah.
Yeah, it's Santa Clara. I mean, there's big time evacs going on, so
Yeah,
they got a big lake, natural barrier, but I don't know, man. It's just the perfect recipe. It's so dry. It's just bad. It's so
Yeah.
dry, and that what they do have, is a huge air show because they have so many resources down there. But with those kind of conditions, we'll see.
Yeah, it's
Not good.
windy
Yep.
too. Windy there.
Sending our
Yep.
thoughts
I
down
was
to the
there in
firefighters there.
1971 in Castaic. It can burn, but thank
Oh,
God
man.
the resources are down there right now.
Yep. Anyway, thanks you guys.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
We're
Brian.
Best
here.
wishes, y'all. Happy New Year.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, thanks for being here, everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we appreciate you. Be in touch.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Oh, gotta stop the recording.